Strap in for the world's fastest half hour. You're on the Straight Line, presented by O'Reilly Auto Parts. And brought to you by Hercules Tires. Now, here are your hosts, Doug Herbert and Marty Hough.
This is the Straight Line on Drag Racing. Thanks for stopping by our half-hour of horsepower. Appreciate you being with us. We kick off the 2018 drag racing season the same way we ended it with 20-car champion Robert Hight. We're talking off-season and coming back to his sponsor's home track. We're in the beams and set to launch our 2018 opening edition of the Straight Line. Wherever you may be, coast to coast, around the world, this is the Straight Line on Drag Racing at mrn.com. And it is my honor and privilege for, I believe this is the 5th year in a row, to introduce our 4-time IHRA Top Fuel champion, 10-time NHRA National Event winner, Doug Herbert, and noted world traveler.
Well, the off season, we had quite a few things happen on December 22nd. Mimi and I got married, so that was pretty neat. Yeah, that was neat. Mimi's dad was the master of ceremonies. He went and got his what do you call it? Your minister's. He's the minister at the United Church of America or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so we had a neat wedding actually over in his backyard. So that was a lot of fun. We did that, and then we took the kids and went on a little trip. And so kids went on honeymoon. That wasn't right, but that's just the way it goes. Yeah. And actually here in the last week or so, some of the people that follow me on social media would know we went to Dubai. Yeah. We've got some people interested in bringing the Brakes Safe Driving program to Dubai. And so we were over there kind of checking that out. They've got some neat stuff over there. They've got that Dubai Autodrome, which is like, I don't know what track that I'm familiar with. I guess really maybe the track down there in Texas, the new track the DeJoria and those guys built
in Austin.
Austin, yeah. Yes. That would probably be the closest thing that I could see to it. But it's an incredible facility. It's like a whole city. They call it Race City, and it's pretty cool. So had a good time over there. We're trying to work out some details to see if we can go back. But hey, you never know. Maybe I'll need somebody to come along and help us PR or something, Marty.
And we talk about the Brakes Foundation, the Brakes charity, a lot. And for those that may be just joining us for the first time, explain what Brakes is.
Yeah, so Brakes is a charity. I started the Brakes program in 2008 after my two sons were killed in a car crash. And so what we are not is the easiest thing to explain. We are not driver's ed. We teach teenagers advanced driving, basically crash avoidance. We're teaching them all these things that we as adults have ran into on the roads, and we have experience because we've been driving for 100 years. Teenagers don't have that. So we're teaching them how to avoid a skid, how to steer out of a skid, what do anti-lock brakes feel like when they're engaged, how to recover from dropping a wheel off the shoulder of the road, distractions and how that affects you, whether it's, texting, obviously, or drinking and driving, all these different things. And the instructors that we use are incredible. Like they teach the Secret Service guys. They do stunts in movies. All these different kind of cool things. We've got some incredible female instructors that do a great job too. So it's just it's a really, really neat thing. And probably the neatest thing about it is there's not a cost to come. It's a charity. It's founded a member of my boys, and we've trained over 30,000 teenagers all around the country now. And according to a study from UNC Charlotte, 64% less likely to be involved in a crash after going through the Brakes program. So put on thebrakes.org to learn more about that.
And we'll be talking a lot about that through the coming year here in 2018. We're going to be here all season long talking about drag racing here on the Straight Line. When we return, we're going to talk about the offseason and a lot of the changes that did happen from 2017 and what's going to be happening in 2018. We'll have more on that here on the Straight Line.
Being there matters, and your United States Navy protects and defends America on the world's oceans. Around the globe, around the clock, Navy ships, submarines, aircraft, and, most importantly, tens of thousands of America's finest young men and women are ready to defend America when piracy threatens global commerce, when disaster strikes, or when called upon by the Commander-in-Chief. Your Navy is there. When it comes to protecting and defending America, Being there matters, and America's Navy is already there.
At Victory Junction, it's simple. We believe every child, no matter their diagnosis or disability, deserves the chance to just be a kid. So we provide a medically safe environment where children who live in a world of hospital stays and doctor's visits are free to do everything from riding horses, ziplining, swimming, fishing, and bowling, all at no cost to the camper. The experience inspires confidence, builds self-esteem, and changes the life of every child who comes here. Help us change a child's life at victoryjunction.org.
Live sports are the one true reality entertainment, where a single dramatic moment can become timeless. In NASCAR, Motor Racing Network's live broadcasts elevate your senses to the sights, sounds, and struggles taking place on the racetrack.
Keselowski to the bottom of the racetrack. He tries to slide up. Newman is there. Sideways is Keselowski.
The power of radio to the imagination of the listener. Tune in to the Motor Racing Network. Visit MRN.com for an affiliate list in your local area.
It's The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Now, once again, here's Doug and Marty.
Appreciate you being here with us on The Straight Line here at MRN.com. Coming up a little bit later on in the program, Robert Hight, 2017 Funny Car Champion here on The Straight Line. Some of the things that happened in 2017 that may be surprising or you may not have heard of, and we'll run down the list right now. Mike Neff in kind of the war of crew chiefs. So it's been a battle over the last 3 or 4 years between John Force Racing, Don Schumacher,
Yep.
and stealing each other's crew chiefs. Mike Neff comes over from John Force Racing now to Don Schumacher Racing, and back the other way, Brian Karate comes from Antron Brown's dragster, and now will be on a funny car with
Right.
Courtney Force.
And Mike Neff, remember, fans, I mean, don't forget, it wasn't that long ago when Gary Scelzi won the Funny Car Championship at Don Schumacher Racing. Mike Neff was his crew chief. So Mike Neff is familiar with things at John Schumacher Racing, which is, probably a good thing. And we've talked about this on the show. Neff's one of, I like Neff. He's just a good guy. He's a personable guy. You can talk to him. He's easygoing, but he's also obviously very smart. He can also drive a car. He can do just about anything. He's a great guy. Brian Karate, yeah, that was, look at Antron Brown. They won all those races, all those championships. Brian Karate was there the whole time.
Yep.
But don't forget who else was there, Mark Oswald.
Yeah.
And Mark Oswald is another one of those guys, you and I have talked about it before. There's two guys that I know that could start in a room full of metal and equipment and build a car, go out and run the car, test the car, drive the car, do everything, and that would be Mark Oswald and Johnny West. Those are the two guys that can do that. Mark Oswald's still there. So Antron Brown, I don't feel like he's in any incapable hands.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
He's
no.
got Mark Oswald, and Mark Oswald has been there the whole time.
Yeah.
I think it, definitely losing Karate would, they had such a finely tuned machine, and now one little piece of that is gone. Will it affect them? I don't know. We'll see. I would bet that it probably won't, because they've got a pretty deep bench over there at Schumacher, so I don't think it will. I'm sure Mike Neff will bring something valuable back to DSR that he's probably learned over at Forces the last few years, and Karate will probably bring something valuable over to Schumacher. So, yeah, like you said, it's just a bidding war probably.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about Mike Neff's departure from John Force Racing with Robert Hight, the president of John Force Racing, when he joins us here in about 10 minutes or so. A funny car, it's been rumored and talked about widely, but now it is official that the funny car headers are now not as laid back. I think there's an 8% difference in the angle of the headers. That's going to slow them down a little bit. We were seeing.
Well, good. They need to slow those things down.
I was going to say you're a big fan of this.
Never go, slower than a funny car. Dragster should always be faster. Who knows? I think the biggest thing with the funny cars that I've seen over the last couple of years, when they moved them back, the cars are harder to drive. The guys, they're hitting more cones. They're harder to drive. They're more dangerous. So. I don't know. I don't think that's a bad thing, really. And if the end of the day they slow them down a little bit, what's the big deal? I mean, Hagen still ran 332 miles an hour in testing, so they're not going to go that much slower. Yeah. So I don't think it's that big a deal. And if it helps the cars drive a little bit better, hey, you know what? That's probably better racing, better safety for the drivers, for the fans. I don't think there's anything really wrong with that.
No, I don't either. And like you said, dragsters have always been the fastest thing out there. That's what people come to see. Not that going 340 miles an hour was a bad thing, but it's going to tighten that up a little bit, and we're probably going to see some better racing because of it.
I would think so. Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
You know, you never know. And but the big thing is, I think that it kind of brings them back. You know, the funny cars were like, it was noticeably they were faster than the dragsters. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So I think that's a good move. And then another addition to the funny car, two of them, right? Sean Langdon coming back and with Colettas and running a funny car over there.
Yeah, speaking of Top Fuel and funny cars, Sean Langdon has spent his entire career running a dragster.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden in a funny car, and we got to see that at spring training in Phoenix. So that was really interesting.
Well, don't forget that Coletta Funny Car team won the championship only 2 years ago.
Yep.
So they know what's going on, and Doug Coletta, obviously, in the dragster is there. I mean, he's a contender every single year, comes right down to the end. So, you know, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what was the reasoning for that. I'm not really sure.
Sponsorship, possibly,
Maybe.
because Global Electronics comes from that dragster and goes over to the funny car. Who knows? But whatever works for them. We'll keep in the Coletta camp. Your good friend Jim Oberhofer announced here just a couple of weeks ago that he was stepping away from his general manager's duties at Coletta's and going to solely be the crew chief of Doug Coletta's Top Fuel dragster, which is
a little bit surprising,
surprising, yeah.
Really. And you know, I called Jimmo, but I didn't ask him about it, so and he didn't talk about it. So I'm guessing it's you know, I don't know, maybe just something that didn't need to be talked about. If I had to guess what happened, you know, Connie Coletta's a tough, you know, he's a tough person to work for. Jimmo's been there for 25 years working for him, so that's not a problem. But I would imagine, knowing Connie and knowing Jimmo, that Connie was like, you know, when are we going to win the championship? What's the matter with you? And Jimmo said, hey, I've got 50 hats I'm wearing here. Let me focus on it, and I think I can give it to you. If I had to guess, that would be my guess. And that's totally unofficial. Jimmo did not tell me that. Connie didn't tell, nobody told me that. But if I had to guess, I would say, you know, that would make sense.
And real quick, Bob Tasca back in a funny car full-time this year, running the entire 2018 season. Good to see BT3 out there.
Well, that, and you know, he's got some Ford support, so you're bringing Ford back into the professional racing that, you know, they've been gone since Force got out of the Ford deal a couple years ago. So it's good to see Bob back out there. Good to see Ford back out there.
Yep. And one of the things that makes the straight line go week to week is our friends at O'Reilly Auto Parts, because they're the one that sponsors it, and they wanted this program, and so we are delivering it to them. And with their support, a new feature here on the straight line, something we like to call red light, green light. Red lights are bad, green lights are good, and we're going to talk about what we think is bad, what we think is good during the week-to-week processes of drag racing during 2018. So during the off-season, probably the worst thing that could ever happen is that Englishtown ends up pulling out, shutting down the drag strip portion of the facility. And for those of you that have not been keeping up, Englishtown is not a part of the 2018 schedule anymore.
It's disappointing. Englishtown, for those of you that don't know, it's probably it's less than 20 minutes or, well, maybe miles, 20 miles from New York City, like Manhattan, actual New York City downtown, to Englishtown. It's a really, really good market. So for the NHRA to be missing that market, a lot of the sponsors love being in that market because they can pull from Philadelphia, they can pull from New York City, they can pull from Newark. There's just a lot around there. So that's somewhere that NASCAR doesn't go. So NHRA actually had that New York market that NASCAR didn't have. So that is definitely a bummer. Had a lot of fun racing at Englishtown over the years, and I just hate to see it go because unfortunately it seems like when they go, they don't come back. So
that's a bit of the problem is that that land was, or that part of the race facility was leased out to another vendor. So unless they break the lease, there's no way that that's coming back, or at least anytime soon. The green light here, though, is that Virginia Motorsports Park at Richmond in Dinwiddie, Virginia, has stepped up and filled that slot.
Yeah.
One of the really good facilities and a place that you've driven at a lot.
Oh yeah, I was there at the inaugural event at whatever they called it back then was I don't know, Virginia Motorsports Park, I guess maybe it was still what it is. But yeah, that was I think it opened in '94, and then they had they had races on and off there with NHRA and even IHRA had some races there. So good to see them back in the NHRA. I think that Richmond market, that's another good market. So happy that they can be there, and happy that that race has a home. I mean, that's a big thing. Is we don't want a race to go away. Many times the teams are actually compensated by the events. So they might be, whatever this number is, 24 events, they're going to get paid. Well, they got their budget and everything done. All of a sudden, Englishtown's gone. Uh-oh, that's 1/24 of our budget is now gone because our sponsor pays us per event. So that, coming back in, that's good for the racers. It's good for the fans up in Richmond. There's nothing bad about that.
Yeah,
that's green.
And that is a green light. And we'll talk a little bit more about that with Robert Hight, because he knows a little bit about the behind-the-scenes workings of drag racing, especially John Force racing, and how all that works. As a matter of fact, he'll be coming up next. The 2017 Funny Car Champion Robert Hight joins us on the straight line.
Motor Racing Network has a way for you to reach out and express your thoughts and opinions on NASCAR. It's the MRN Fan Forum Hotline.
I was wondering, what's the first thing you tend to think? I was curious about those new rules from what I heard.
Call in 844-4-ASK-MRN. Got a question or comment for a driver or MRN personality? 844-4-ASK-MRN.
You guys keep it on. Listen to you guys next
It's the Fan Forum Hotline, your connection to the sport of NASCAR.
In order to maximize a vehicle's performance and efficiency, the proper adjustments need to be made based on the road ahead. That's true for both race car drivers on the track and for truck drivers hauling freight on the highway. But if your truck's equipped with a Detroit DT12 automated manual transmission with intelligent powertrain management, adjustments are made automatically based on GPS terrain mapping, maximizing performance and efficiency. Don't just want better business solutions, demand them. Learn more at demanddetroit.com. MRN.com, your online destination for all things NASCAR. Looking for the latest NASCAR news? MRN.com. NASCAR stats for fantasy racing? MRN.com. Opinion pieces from award-winning motorsports riders? MRN.com. Race schedules, series standings, and photos? MRN.com. Live race streaming and audio and video podcasts that you can't miss? MRN.com. Stay up to date with all things NASCAR. MRN.com.
You're listening to The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Now, back to Marty Hough and Doug Herbert.
Good to be with you for 2018, the kickoff to a brand new season. We're kicking it off in style, and as a matter of fact, the way we ended 2017 with the Funny Car Champion of the World, Robert Hight, joining us. Robert, how are you?
Doing good, guys. How are you? Real good, actually, because it's race week.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you can sleep in your own bed and go to the races out there at Pomona too. That's got to be an advantage.
Exactly. No, it's nice to get right back at it. It's kind of funny when you win a championship. Then you kind of go away from the fans and everybody. It kind of gets a little bit quiet. But man, it's good to get back with the fans this week and get back in the ball game, because I know, Doug, you've been there before lots of times. 3 months off is too much, and you get back in that race car, go testing, and man, it's like starting over.
It gets exciting, it's so much fun to hit the throttle on one of the cars and smell the nitro and all that stuff. So you had a little bit of off time. What'd you do over the off season, Robert?
Well, actually, I didn't have a whole lot of time. I spent some time with the family, during the holidays, but they kept me running all winter, doing shows and appearances, which not complaining a bit. And when I wasn't doing that, I spent a lot of time in Indianapolis with the teams and, trying to just get things situated and organized for, a run at it again in 2018.
Well, now you guys, you don't have just one championship to back up in 2018. You've got two of them to back up. So and everybody, there's no surprising them anymore. They know when you got the number 1 in your car, they know who they're gunning for.
Yeah, without a doubt. There's definitely 2 targets on our back.
Well,
Robert, during the off season, you lose Mike Neff from your organization, but you gain Brian Karate. Talk about the what you lost and what you gained back for this season.
Well, Mike Neff and I were, really good friends. He's been my crew chief the last few years. I guess it would have been from the middle of 13 until, I guess the beginning of 17. So for 4 years, Mike Neff was my crew chief, and we won some races. We were in the ball game. But when John switched us back last year, I mean, it was getting Jimmy Prock, back, as my crew chief. I honestly felt like I'd won the lottery. I mean, Jimmy's the reason that I won my first championship, and a lot of the races I've won are because of Jimmy Prock. So it was really cool getting him back. But Mike Neff's still a good friend, but he just decided that he wanted to change. Maybe it was a dragster he wanted to run. I don't know, but I definitely believe starting at this point right now, I feel more confident in our 3 funny cars, more confident than I have in the last few years starting a season. So Brian Karate's a great addition. He and Danny Hood, have been together quite a while. They're good friends. They're away from the racetrack, and we all know what he's accomplished, with Antron Brown. So, and then we saw what they could do in testing. They were the quick car over their testing. So I really feel good, and I feel like I said, the strongest our 3 funny cars have been starting a season in quite a few years.
Well, that it doesn't seem like you made a bad decision there on any of those things. And like I say, I think Mike Neff is a great guy, but you cannot discount the fact that Proc came over this past year, and you guys just had a heck of a team. Chris Cunningham, obviously a great addition too, and it's what can you say? I mean, you ran good all year, but man, when it came down to having the pressure on at the end, you got it really done, and unbelievable.
Yeah,
season.
It was amazing. Sometimes when you make changes like that, you think, well, it's going to be a work in progress. It's going to take some time to get up and running and get where we need to be. And you kind of look at the beginning of last year, you look, well, 17 is going to be a rebuilding year, but to pull off what we did, I'd say we definitely made the right calls and the right decisions. And, we know it's not going to be any easier this year. It's going to be harder. There's probably more good cars out there than there have been in the past. And it's not going to be easy. We're here at Auto Club today, and we presented them with a championship trophy. And I told them, I thought, 2009 I won my first championship. So I thought my next one won't take that long. I'll have another one here before you know it. And, then have to wait till 17, that's 8 years. And that just proves how hard it is out here to win, not only races, but championships. You win a race anymore, it's you've accomplished something.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. You guys definitely did. Tell us, Robert, what I know at the end coming up from last year, there was some talk about, maybe Monster Energy wouldn't come back and be with John Force Racing. But obviously, boy, how could they say no when you won the championship and did as good as you did? So did that have? I'm sure that must have had some effect, and being able to keep that team together and everything like it was has to be another great thing too, as president of John Force Racing.
Yeah, Monster, they were ecstatic, with getting a championship. They're in a lot of other forms of motorsports, and the title sponsor in NASCAR, so they're spread very thin. But they're definitely proud of what Brittany and her team accomplished, and we're very fortunate to have them back on board this year.
Robert, we were just talking a little bit before you came on here about the loss of Englishtown and what that means to everybody on tour. From the inside, what does losing Englishtown on the track and off the track and going to a facility that most have not raced at?
It's a bummer. I look at I call it, majors, and it's just in my own head probably, but I look at majors in drag racing, and I would say Pomona, Gainesville, Englishtown, Indy. Those are your major races to me because of the history. Okay, lots and lots of history, and Englishtown's really the one that I've never won. And every year going into the season, I say I want to win Englishtown this year because there's just so much history, so many funny cars have raced there, and match racing over the years. Just, man, they could fill that place on a Wednesday night for a match race. Used to do it all the time when I was a crew member on John's car. So unfortunately, I never got a win there. Never even got to the final round. So pretty bummed about that. The fans are great. Just love that race. So I am bummed about it, but I'm also proud of the fact that another racetrack stepped up and wants to have a NHRA event. I have raced at Richmond before, so it's not totally new, but I understand that the folks that have taken over really have made a commitment, and they're going to make it a top-notch facility. So looking forward to racing in front of some new fans this year. But I'll tell you what, it's kind of like a loss of a family member when we heard that Englishtown was gone.
Yeah, that was a bummer. A lot of those funds, people would never believe on that Wednesday night how many people they could pack in there for that Night of Thrills deal and all that. I know you.
Oh, it was crazy. It was so much fun.
Yeah,
and I tell you, there's some passionate fans there, and just kind of a bummer I never got to win that race.
Well, Robert Hight, great job in the off season in the testing going into Pomona. So now you're at your home track. Good luck at Pomona this weekend at your sponsor's race, the AAA Southern California, and we'll look forward to talking to you again. Maybe I'll see you in Pomona. I'll be out there on Friday.
Definitely stop by, Doug. No, it's good to be back. Nothing like Pomona. Unfortunately, we haven't had much weather this winter, so it's not the same view that you're used to seeing this time of year with the snow-capped mountains. We haven't had much weather out here in California, but I know it's definitely. You look at the forecast; it's going to be a beautiful weekend. Hopefully the stands are packed, which I believe they will be, and it's going to be good to get back at it. I really believe, this Camaro that I drive and this team, we're going to be good from start to finish this year. We're not going to just hit our stride at the end. We're going to be good and win races all year.
Good luck, and thanks, Robert.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Robert.
2017 Funny Car Champion Robert Hight joining us on the Straight Line, and when we return, we'll wrap up another great edition of the show.
MRN's Throwback Thursday, the greatest races in NASCAR history.
Richard Petty comes to the outside of Benny Parsons, and ladies and gentlemen, it will be Richard Petty victorious in the STP Dodge.
Listen Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on MRN.com or the MRN app.
Dale Earnhardt has won the Daytona 500.
On demand in the MRN.com Media Center or on iTunes and Google Play.
Jeff Gordon wins the Southern 500 and the Winston Noble $5 million bonus.
Throwback Thursday on MRN.com.
When the smoke settles, the entertainment never stops.
It's all a family sport.
On race weekends, your favorite NASCAR personality is an everyday superhero.
Brad Keselowski will win.
But when they leave the racetrack, they're just like everyone else.
We just have to find the value package that connects a new generation of fans.
I'm Susie Armstrong. Join me on a daily journey as we discuss the hot topics and engaging personalities of NASCAR Nation. Ned Jarrett's World of Racing, weekdays on the Motor Racing Network.
It's Rob Tanner, host of America's Tailgate Party, NASCAR USA. Join us every weekend as we get you set for NASCAR racing with 2 hours of the hottest hits in country music. The Motor Racing Network's Woody Kane is here with NASCAR news, and MRN pit reporter Steve Post stops by to talk a little racing. We'll have features and highlights you can't get anywhere else, so be here each weekend for NASCAR USA on the Motor Racing Network.
You're staged and ready for another run on the Straight Line. Brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here's Doug and Marty.
Big thanks to Robert Hight for joining us here on the Straight Line. And as you mentioned, we're getting done here on the set, and then you scramble off, get on an airplane, hop over to Southern California. You're going to be there for some break schools, and you're going to be at Pomona on Friday.
I'm going to be out at the NHRA races at Pomona on Friday. We're doing that youth education service program that NHRA calls it the YES program.
Yes.
I'll be doing that with Alan Reinhardt and I'm not sure who all else. Usually Tony Schumacher's there and Antron Brown. So it'll be a fun deal. And they'll bring about 5,000 teenagers. Basically, they get the day off of school to come out to the drag races. Kind of a opportunity, to get out there and see what's going on. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then break school this weekend down in San Diego.
That's not a bad weekend.
Not a bad weekend.
and we're headed to Pomona. And real quick, I mean, it's the home of drag racing. It was your home track. It's for most everybody, it's their home track.
You know what? Pomona is really the start of hot rod. I mean, Pomona national races is the big deal. Lucky enough I got to win Pomona one time. That was great. One of my best wins ever.
And we'll have the winners on from the Winter Nationals next week here on the Straight Line. We'll see you then.